Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast, episode 19. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here today with today's special guest, Dr. Joanna Martin from Shift Lifestyle and Speaker Training. Joanna is a speaker and lifestyle design specialist. She is no stranger to small business. She took her own business from zero to $500,000 in just 3 months. Who would like to make $500,000 in 3 months and maintain a fabulous lifestyle? Well, you're in the right place. Joanna has worked with big Australian companies such as ANZ Bank and Fairfax Publishing, as well as global organizations like eBay. And she's here with us today to take you through the simple steps you need to create your own ultimate lifestyle business so that you can escape the daily grind, make more money, and live life on your terms. So, listen very carefully as Joanna takes you through how to go from frantic to freedom. One of the things that I really, really love about Joanna is that she's got this focus on the feminine way to wealth, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk a little bit about today. So welcome, Joanna, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Holly. I'm really looking forward to it.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, because as your name implies, you started out as a medical doctor.
Yeah, that's right, I did, which is kind of odd when you look at the journey I've been on since then, but I was doing, in my intern year, which is your first year out of med school, I did quite a bit of work on the oncology ward, and which I'm very blessed to have had that opportunity, because I think patients with a cancer diagnosis tend to have their lives a hell of a lot more sorted out than most other people. And you meet some amazing people. And one of the ladies that I met while I was working there, seriously, she's probably the reason my whole life changed. It was one of my patients. She came into the ward, a beautiful little Irish lady with an amazing sense of humour, and we just clicked. And when she took a really bad turn for the worse 10 days after coming into hospital, and she lost consciousness and never regained consciousness after that, passed away a couple of days later. When that occurred, you know, the journey that I'd had with her caused me to reassess a hell of a lot that was going on in my life at the time. And it was that caused me to really ask myself, you know, if I had a time limit, would I be doing what I'm doing right now? Would I be spending my time how I'm spending it? And for me back then, the answer was no, because while I was a good doctor, it didn't light me on fire, you know, and I'd always wondered what if with a million other things, one of which was performing. You know, I'd done a lot of drama and stuff through school and university, and I'd always, you know, had this dream of maybe being a professional actor, but had always been far too nervous, and I had no confidence with actually, you know, pursuing it. But yeah, when I lost her that week, I just really threw everything up in the air and went, you know what? I want to live my life like she was living it, and you know, and really live it. And so I made a commitment to audition for drama school. And that was the first big change.
That is quite a shift, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it really is. And people go, "You what?" But you know, for me, it was actually, by the time I actually made that decision, I'd been doing I'd read a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron when I was in 5th year of med school. And so for 3 years I'd been writing my morning pages, as she calls them, 3 pages every single morning, and doing artist dates. And so by the time it came to making the decision to actually go and follow my artistic dream, it was actually the next logical step. It wasn't a huge, you know, it wasn't a massive challenge of confidence. It was something that was quite easy to do. And I did very well with it. You know, I got into an amazing school in Australia called Actor Centre Australia, which is where Hugh Jackman went. He's now the patron of it, and Nicole Kidman and stuff. So it was a really great school. And I was doing really very well there. The only challenge I had really was I found something else as I was starting on that journey that was an even better fit for me. And that was when I discovered personal development and life coaching. And I had one of my drama teachers say, no, you should be a life coach. I didn't even know what a life coach was back then. And I said, well, that's a life coach. And she told me. And so I went and did this course and I went, wow, yeah, that's it. I looked at the guy up on stage and I thought, this is me. This is, what they didn't tell me about on careers day at school, because probably didn't exist when I had careers day at school.
Exactly.
And so, so I learned everything I needed to learn to do that, and started a little coaching practice in Sydney in Australia, which did quite well, not because I was a great coach, which I was, but because I learned marketing, which I think is the trick for most people who are great at what they do but don't have successful businesses, is because they haven't actually studied how to market and sell themselves effectively, which is really what it's got to start with. Unfortunately, just getting good at your thing isn't enough these days.
You've got to be kind of very well-rounded, don't you?
Absolutely, you do.
So tell us about your business journey from there. How did you get from being a life coach to where you are today with your business?
I sweated it out in the trenches like a lot of your listeners probably are at the moment as a solopreneur with my coaching business. I was doing the coaching, I was doing the bookkeeping, doing the marketing, washing up the cups after people left, like everything, I was doing the whole lot. And through blood, sweat and tears, I managed to grow that business into a fairly successful low six-figure business, fairly quickly, which I was really pleased with that result. And it was actually, I think at that stage of my life, I was really kind of living, me, my authentic self. Before that, it was pretty much the make-believe fake version of me as doctor. I'd had no conscious choices up to then, but now I was sort of having, made some conscious choices and very much, living my fully self-expressed self, which I think is what got me as far as that. But it was then when I was approached by the gentleman who taught me my coaching modalities and so on, to actually come on board and work as a speaker with his business and as a trainer and help him grow what he was doing. And it was an opportunity too good to refuse, really. It took me, to the States and to the UK and all around Australia, and I was delivering trainings and training up other trainers, which was fantastic. And I really kind of found I was really expressing my mission at a very big level doing that, which was brilliant fun. But I burnt out, I really, really burnt out. I was great at it. The audiences loved me. We were able to massively increase the sales during the time that I was there because of the work that I was doing. And I was going out looking at other organizations and looking at how they were structured and bringing what I was learning back into what we were doing. And, it just tipped what we were doing on our ear. And it really, really did grow, which was fantastic. But I remember having my 30th birthday over in London and I was Skyping back to my boyfriend, who is now my husband. And I remember just thinking, oh, my God, my life is not what I want it to be. I'm on the other side of the world, and turning 30 for a girl is a big deal, all of that stuff was coming up. And I was Skyping back to my family. I thought, man, I can't stand on stage today and say I've got a great life. You should learn these tools, because my life isn't what I want it to be. My eyes are out on stalks. I'm exhausted. In the kind of month preceding that, I was just in the middle of a 7-day training. And in the month preceding that, I'd been on 4 continents. I was like, man, travel, like on the outside looking in, it's like, wow, how glamorous. But oh my God, it was so not glamorous, I'd been to a naturopath and just about threatened her to give me something, or otherwise I was going to, I refused to believe that I could not perform at the same level as, the men in the company, the male trainers that I was training. They'd happily jump on a plane, jump off, be somewhere else, jet lag, be gone, who cares, just get on with it and push through. And it didn't seem to, they were working hard, but they just seemed to have more reserve than I did.
And they weren't suffering as much, it sounds like.
That's right. Yeah, they really weren't. And I just thought, God, what's wrong with me? Maybe I'm deficient in something. And I was deficient in something, but it turns out it was testosterone. Yeah, so that was after that little episode in London, I decided to call it quits with that organisation. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just knew that something had to change, because I was, I was really at the end of my tether. And so I came home to my husband, and he was my boyfriend at the time, and he said, Joe, you are amazing at what you do. And I'm so grateful for this advice, right? He said to me, Joe, you're so amazing at what you do. In the next few weeks, you are going to get so many business opportunities, but I really want you to say no to all of them. I don't want you to make any decisions until October, which was about 4 months from there. I don't know why I chose October. But I was at that point where, sometimes some of your listeners might relate. When you get to a point when your executive functioning is so exhausted that you need someone who cares about you more than you are able to care about yourself to just tell you how to play it. That was where I was up to. And he just said, right, that's what you're going to do. And I said, okay, because I trusted him more than I trusted myself at the time. And he was right. We got a million amazing business opportunities. People offering me half of their company to come on board and do what I'd done with the previous company, with their company, just, and to have a 50% shareholding in this amazing thing they'd already built. And it was very flattering, but I said no to everything and just sort of replenished. And the 4 months turned into 9 months before we actually got around to doing anything. And it was in that period of time that I really discovered the reason I'd burnt out and that I hadn't been able to keep up was because I'd been operating purely from masculine energy. And for a woman, operating from masculine energy it's got a time limit. We can do it, but, it takes testosterone to operate from masculine energy. And we have 1/13 of the testosterone that men have. So when we run out of our testosterone to get the job done, what we start harnessing up is our cortisol and adrenaline. And of course, we know what happens when we run on adrenaline the whole time. We get adrenal fatigue, we burn out. Eventually that turns into chronic fatigue or ME and really bad health generally if it goes unmanaged. And I was sort of on that path, Thankfully, I didn't get to a diagnosis, probably just because I didn't go and see a doctor. But I was definitely on that path from coming from masculine.
I think this is such a powerful reminder because I think so many women don't understand the biology behind the differences in how men and women function. And we can pretend to be like men, but at what cost?
That's right. There's a fabulous book which I highly recommend every woman in business read called The Female Brain by Dr. Luann Brizendine. And actually she's written The Male Brain as well, which is a fabulous read, especially if you've got men in your life and sons, read the male one as well. But in that book, it just distinguishes the differences that we're really only coming to be aware of in the last kind of 20 years, really. It's new science. And, since we've been able to do PET scanning and things like that. And what we see is there's a remarkable difference between the male brain and the female brain. I mean, just one example is female brain has many, many more, I can't remember the exact number, but many, many more connections between the left and right hemispheres across the little part of the brain called the corpus callosum than the male brain does. And this is said to be the reason why, women have, we think kind of relationally or as a great speaker on this subject calls, Alison Armstrong calls it, we have diffuse awareness. We're aware of all things at all times, which is why I'm currently sitting in my husband's office doing this podcast and the mess on his desk is speaking to me. I'm aware of it. Even though I can be fully present with you, it still all comes in. I can hear my little boy downstairs kind of grumbling in the background. We just have this awareness of all things at all times. Whereas men are modal in their thinking. They very much, that's why Greg can sit at his mess and focus only on his computer screen to the exclusion of everything else. It's quite extraordinary. He can lie in bed while James is grizzling and be oblivious to it because he's in sleeping mode. So that this is the difference between there's many differences between the male and female brain, but the way that we function is and the way that we think is very different. And when we understand that hormonally we're different, and to think modally, which is how most of us operate in business, we hop into our I am writing this copy box, or we hop into the I am making these sales calls, or I've got to pump out this training manual, or whatever it is. And we operate from that masculine energy, thinking modally, harnessing up that kind of achievement-driven, productivity, efficiency kind of energy. We wear ourselves out because we just don't have the hormonal support to operate from that state from an extended period of time.
One of the things that I loved that you said the last couple of times I saw you speak in London was that when a woman steps into her feminine, her business blossoms. And that just really, really struck me as being so important and something that I'd never, ever considered.
It is. It's such a truth. It's something that I discovered for myself, just through going down that path myself, making that shift from, my masculine energy into my feminine energy, which is not to say that, we women don't use our masculine energy from time to time. From time to time, you do need to use it. But the key distinction here is to create the vision for your business and to craft where you're going and what you're up for from your feminine, and then work in partnership with your inner masculine to get where you're going. Don't let the masculine energy be the boss, I guess, is the key. But when that occurred for me, our business certainly blossomed. I mean, for us, that was really what allowed us to, go from 0 to 7 figures in our first 12 months with our new business, was because I was operating from a totally different place. And I continued to grow in that area over the next 4 years, and continue to grow to this day. I certainly do not purport to be an expert on this. I'm not there yet, you know what I mean? But I am very aware of the journey. And our business has grown year on year, and every year I let go more and more of the need to be a masculine driving force, and instead to be, I think about myself as this archetypical queen inside of the business, holding the space for magic to happen. And the more I do, the more our business blossoms and grows and expands. And by that, I mean that the universe gets behind what we're up to, in just the same way as nature gets behind, the blossoming of a tree. I'm in Melbourne at the moment, Holly, and it's just spring. And there's a street just behind us where the whole way down the street there's beautiful fruit trees. I'm not very familiar with horticulture, so I don't know what fruit trees they are. But they are all in this fabulous blossom at the moment, and the bees are buzzing around. It's just spectacular. And as just as that fruit tree always has in it the potential for blossoming and creating a fruit, but it's not unless the spring comes that it will occur. If it's a particularly long winter, it'll blossom late. If it's a particularly warm winter, it'll blossom early. But spring has to arrive for the inner nature of that tree to blossom forth. And it's just the same for women in business. We have the potential for amazing blossoming inside our businesses, but it's not until we come from our feminine energy, which is like spring to us. Mind you, feminine energy is also spring, summer, autumn, and winter. There's all of those seasons are there, but we have to step into our true nature, is probably a better way of putting it, in order for our business to just, and not just our business, but our lives to blossom, and for us to fully express the possibilities of what we have inside of us. We need to, it's not even a harnessing of our true nature, because the spring doesn't necessarily harness that energy. It just lets it run through it. You know what I mean? And by letting nature run through it, it goes through its phases, and there's amazing fruit at the end of the summer. It's just so special, and that's what happens for us in business.
It's like a natural process that just flows.
That's exactly right.
So what would you say are your top tips for women who want to shift to a more feminine business model, but yet they're kind of still stuck in the masculine?
Well, one thing I would just draw, it's not necessarily that there's a more feminine business model. I think business models are business models. I'm all for not reinventing the wheel when it comes to selecting a model. And the model of business that we are running currently is one which is, which many of my colleagues and friends have a very similar model that has it's got a membership site in it, and it's got seminars in it, because that's our business model, right? And that's not masculine or feminine. It's just what it is. What it's more about is stepping into a feminine way of being inside of our businesses, and irrespective of what the model is. And so, and that's what I think we want to do. So, in terms of, I guess, tips, there's so many ways that we can do it. But one of the first things that I would suggest to women is to give up the habit of trying to be productive all the time. Productivity is something which which we hold up on a pedestal because we've been to Dale Carnegie trainings, or we've spoken to people at networking events. And, I've had a productive day. I've got all this done. But if we look at productivity, it's the definition of productivity. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it's basically to generate or to bring forth goods and services, which kind of sounds very mechanistic, I reckon, in its manner, and it comes from a very masculine energy thing. A man can be productive because he can sit down and be in his work box. So one of the tips that I recommend is for women to give up the habit of being productive, because productivity is something that we all kind of strive towards, because we've heard in business circles or at trainings that we've been to that being productive is kind of, the holy grail, have a productive day. But when we look at the definition of productivity, which is really around generating or to bring forth goods and services, is what the word's all about. It's very mechanistic. It's very much like a machine. And if we flip that and we kind of think about masculine energy as being modal in its abilities, that's, men can be they can work like machines. They really can. They can sit down, they can do the same thing, they can get it done, push through. It's incredible. I so admire that in men, and I'm quite envious of it. That said, we women, we don't work like that. Yes, we can step into our masculine energy and become productive from time to time. But to echo what I've said about the blossoming, I think for women it's much more useful for us to endeavour to be fruitful with our work. And by fruitful, we mean, the ability to bring forth fruit. And we come back to that fruit tree example, which I like to think of a woman in business being exactly like a fruit tree. You've got the potential for amazing fruit, but only are you going to blossom in the spring and the fruit come in the summer. No matter how hard that tree works, there's no way it can bear fruit in the winter. And we women have, daily seasons, weekly seasons, certainly monthly seasons. And we need to start to become aware of our different energies that we have at different times of the day, different times of the week, and different times of the month. When we become aware of that, we'll recognize that there are some times in the month where we're really fabulously creative and we can dream up new ideas and create new things. There's other times of the month where we just want to retreat from the world. Some times of the month where it's really easy for us to go and, network and connect with people and collaborate. Other times of the month where we want to hide. And trying to do some aspects of your business at the wrong time of the month, it really doesn't work. So it's one of the first things is to become aware of your energy shifts. And one of the tools that I really recommend that ladies use is the morning pages or morning writing. Really, it's a very simple tool, and I explain it in detail in a video series that I have on my website if people want to go have a look at it. But basically what you do is it's 3 pages of whatever's in your head when you wake up first thing in the morning, and you just pour it out of your head. If you do this, you start to see how you're feeling day by day, month by month, and at different stages of the month, how things feel. You start to get aware of your energies, and you can start to see which energies you should be harnessing at which times during the month. So shifting to fruitfulness rather than productivity gives you space for allowing downtime, allowing retreat time, and equally, like if you've got scheduled to do, introverted work on a day when you just feel like you want to get out there, use that. So have some flexibility with yourself. And it's more kind of noticing your patterns and then overlaying that over your timetable. Does that make sense, Holly?
It totally makes sense. And I know that the times that I've kind of tried to force myself to do the work that I thought that I should be getting done, when I really didn't feel like doing it, nothing ever gets done. I just kind of plod through it, and it's just torture, and it just doesn't happen. So learning how to flow, I think, is going to be a huge, huge thing for me. And I'm loving the morning pages. So thank you so much for recommending that.
Oh, you're very welcome. So one of the other things that comes out of that, which I think is really useful for stepping into our femininity, is that there are always going to be for us ladies, or for men and women, tasks in our business that are in flow and tasks that are out of flow. And it's kind of tempting to hear what I've just said about managing your energy and being aware of your energy, to use it as an excuse never to do the out of flow activities. So what I recommend is a twofold thing. First is something I call batching for energy matching, which is the thing that exhausts us more often than not is not how much is on our to-do list, but it's the shifting between different energies of the tasks on our to-do list that get worn out. For instance, the energy it takes to make a sales call is totally different to the energy that it takes to look over your VAT return or, your tax return, is totally different to the energy it takes to empty your inbox, is totally different to the energy it takes to write a blog article. Like, all of those things take different kind of energies to get done. And if that's your task list for a given day, you could spend, and this is what it takes me, but, everybody's different. Some people take longer, some people take less, but it takes me about a good 20 to 30 minutes to shift between energies. So if I want to shift out of kind of the focused creative energy of writing a blog article into the analytical energy of looking over my figures, it takes me about 20 to 30 minutes to psych myself up for doing that. If I've got to shift 4 times during the day, that's about 2 hours of my day I'm spending just psyching myself up for energy changes. And if I'm not aware of the different energies and I'm just going from the top of my task list down to the bottom and I've got, 15 different tasks on there and 5 different energies, I might be shifting energies, 5, 6, 7 or 8 times during the day, which is you would get to the end of that day and have felt very unproductive. But you weren't unproductive. You were just not being fruitful. So the thing to do is to start batching together tasks of the same energy at the same time. What I generally do is have whole days in a particular energy. I usually start every day with a little bit of still energy and then go into, which is analytical energy, and then go into, all of my phone calls on a day, all of my, writing and creating on a day, for instance. Some of my students tend to do it, have mornings, have a morning on one energy, then an energy shift at lunchtime, and in the afternoon on a different energy. So the key here is batching together. I call it batching for energy matching, batching together tasks of the same energy, because you'll save so much time that you're currently wasting psyching yourself up to shift energies. And you're in psych up mode because you're going and you're having your 18th cup of tea or you're doing the laundry, So that makes a huge difference for getting all of the jobs done. But similarly, just the final piece on kind of getting your out of flow tasks done. When I sit down to work, no matter what, I've got 5 different candles. And no matter what energy it is that I have to be in for that day, I will grab the candle that corresponds to that energy. So like I've got a fire energy candle and I've got a metal energy candle. And we'll go into this in detail in our program, so it's probably won't explain each of the energies now because it'll just confuse people. But I have 5 different candles, one for each of the different energies of tasks that we have to do. And whatever day it is, I light that candle. And what that does is, even on the days then that I'm doing my out of flow tasks, there's a femininity around my desk. There's a sacredness around my space. I draw out, I've got a deck of goddess cards, and, you could use anything, but anything whatever gets you connected to the divine. I just like to draw a goddess card for the day and have a little message for the day. So I have my goddess sitting on my desk and I have my candle burning on my desk. And what that allows me to do is be in that energy, even if it's an out of flow energy for me, with some nice music playing, I can still get that work done, and it feels like a gift to be able to do it and to have that special time, even though it's work that in the past I would never have enjoyed doing. So it's about really what it all boils down to is becoming aware of what intuitively when you stop trying to be someone that you're not.
I think so many of us are so out of touch with who we are, and we get so caught up in this masculine way of doing business because that's what we've been taught, that we forget to look inward and kind of work more intuitively.
That's exactly right. We think that, all of our business mentors have been men. Business is a masculine paradigm, and, commerce has been masculine for, thousands of years that it's been around. It's been, governed predominantly by men. So, of course, we're going to think that the right way of doing business is the masculine way because it's the only way that we've ever learned. Even if we've had the benefit of learning from women educators, you know, I would say 99 times out of 100, they're teaching masculine business principles. You know, it's a really, we don't have I don't believe there are enough feminine business role models for us out there to look at and to learn from, which is why the work that we do, you know, I always say to the women that are coming through our programs, this is really about us being a part of a conversation and becoming the role models of the next generation, because, you know, they're not there yet, really. It's certainly not in force. And we have to harness up and learn from archetypical examples such as the queen and, you know, the mother, these feminine archetypes. How can we bring them out in our businesses as opposed to, you know, the masculine kind of energies that we have been using? So, it's just so important. It's just so important that we make this shift, not just for ourselves so that we can survive business, but I believe so that we can create an example for the new generation.
I think that's so important. Now, your lifestyle business program works a lot with this feminine way of doing business. Could you tell us a little bit more about this program?
Yeah, sure. Well, Holly, this is it's obviously the program that you've met me through, and
yes, it's fabulous.
Thank you very much. It's a 9-month program that I put together. I think there's something very special about the period of 9 months for women. And it's a 9-month business mentoring program with a difference. It's not just your traditional, you know, here's sales and marketing and here's, you know, business finance. It does cover all of the important business fundamentals, but we approach it all from the feminine way. And what we're looking to create is for those who are starting out in business, if they're just, you know, at the beginning phase of their business, has only been in business for less than 2 years, let's say, it's about making sure that all of the sound fundamentals are in place, but they're rooted very much coming from their feminine energy, but all of the business fundamentals are in place. For those who've been in business for a while, it's really a journey of transformation, of a revisiting of all of the decisions that they've made that have got them where they are, and re-energizing, bringing the heart back into what they're doing, and re-energizing what they're doing with the feminine energy. Because anyone who's got a successful business, not anyone, but I would say the vast majority of women who have successful businesses despite their, despite their feminine energy, not because of it. You know, my first business successes came, as I explained earlier, from harnessing my masculine, just working it. So for those who've been in business for a while, there's kind of this longing to know that it can be done another way, you know, because you get these great results, you kind of go, wow, I don't feel fulfilled. Well, it's because, you know, the bloke inside you was setting the goals. And so when you achieve them, you know, he was celebrating, but he's not you. So I think so that's what the program's about. And, you know, we've got the training modules where we learn all of the business principles from the feminine way, and then we've got, you know, mentoring and an amazing community support. It's quite a comprehensive program, and I'm really, really proud of it. And the sorts of results that we've been seeing with ladies is extraordinary. So I'm really, really proud of it.
Great. Well, I'm just getting, for the listeners so that they know, I'm just getting started in this program, but it's been absolutely fabulous so far, and I'm so happy that I've invested in this, because my friends that have done it have had such huge transformations in their business. So
yes, it's good fun. We've seen some, and this brings us back to the quote that you mentioned earlier, Holly, that when a woman steps into a feminine business, the business will blossom. It's what really, really does happen. It's really quite unique. And the important thing is the right business blossoms. Yes. I think many of us end up, you know, creating businesses that are not ours, not us. It's someone else's version of what we should be doing for ourselves, because we don't trust our innate instincts and we haven't planned our business from our heart. You know, it really does have to start from purpose. You know, as I said earlier, men and women, we're quite different in the modal versus the diffuse awareness. And for this reason, a woman can't long stay in business that is out of alignment with her life purpose, because we can't stick it in a box. We can't compartmentalize in the same way without constantly running on adrenaline. So we need to be able to allow our businesses to be expression of our life purpose. And we need to take it down to packaging it commercially, because I think one of the mistakes that some women make is they go, well, I'm not buying into that masculine way of doing business. My business has to be an expression of my life purpose. And they come up with this, this business idea. And, I hear them all the time. They're odd. When you meet someone at networking, they tell you what they do. And it's like, you just can't quite figure it out, they mean well, but it's like, I'm sorry, you do what? I don't get it. Those sorts of businesses, they're not packaged commercially. Okay, it might be aligned with the person's life purpose, but it's not a commercial packaging of that.
Right, and it's not something that's going to speak to other people.
That's right. It's not, and that's not a business. That's a hobby, and a very expensive one.
Yes, I see so many women with very expensive hobbies that they're struggling to take to the business level.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And, some of these things are what we need to harness up. It's got to be a balance. It's got to be, yes, we need to be aligned with our life purpose. Yes, we need to be coming from our feminine energy. And yes, we need to, like a queen running a country, we need to be firm and voracious in our pursuit of our business being sustainable and providing for our lifestyle. Letting it get away with languishing and being an excuse for a waste of time, for not having a nice time, isn't good enough. It's got to provide, and not just for your lifestyle. I mean, one of the big things that I'm very passionate about at the moment is at the Vancouver Peace Summit, the Dalai Lama said that the world will be saved by the Western woman. And when I heard that, I thought, wow, this is marching orders for us ladies. No longer is it just about us, stepping up to the fore and competing for equality and all of the rest of it. For us here in the West, it's about us stepping up at a level where we can actually change the planet and save the world. What does that even mean? And I really firmly believe that when we women step into our feminine energy and we are able to harness that to create wealth, then we are going to absolutely transform the planet, because when women get wealthy, they share. And that's what I think is going to make the difference, because of our empathy, because of our innate connection to our families and our communities. When we're in our feminine energy, we can't not share. I was recently in Santorini for a friend's wedding in Greece, and there's an archaeological site there called Akrotiri, which is an ancient Minoan civilization that was destroyed but preserved, much the way that famous Pompeii was by the volcano when it erupted there. Mm-hmm. And in this Minoan civilization, you're walking around these ruins. The houses are huge. I swear to God, the houses that these people lived in, we're talking 1700 BC was when it actually erupted. So, we're talking 4,000 years ago was when this, people were living there. Their houses are bigger than the house I live in right now. And all of the houses are big. They were all big. And the theory put forward by the very masculinized brochure at the site was that there were no kings. There were no kings was what it said. So we hypothesized that these civilizations were headed up by priests. Again, all masculine. But I've done quite a bit of research into the divine feminine and the history of the divine feminine. And there's a great book called Switching to Goddess by J. Lynn Studebaker, which I highly recommend if you're interested in this stuff. And she's got quite an irreverent approach to it, but it's very well researched. And what she says of the Minoan civilizations is that Minoan civilizations were civilizations that worshipped a divine female deity, a goddess, Mother Nature, basically. And what we know, if we look at all cultures that have a single divine female deity like that, a goddess, is that where God is a woman, women are revered. Women are honoured in the society, not put down like they have been for many thousands of years in our societies. But they're honoured, and when women are honoured, they're respected, and when they're respected, they're leaders, and when they're leaders, they manage the wealth. And when women are managing the wealth, everyone lives in a big house. This is at a very simple level. That's what's occurring in these cultures because they are female-centric, maternocentric cultures. So I believe that what the Dalai Lama is saying to us, ladies, is that us stepping into our power inside of our lives and inside of expressing that through business and through wealth creation. You know, maybe it's not business. Maybe you do, you know, you stay in your job because you're doing a great job, but you bring some feminine energy into your work that you're doing at work so that you can sustain it. And then you build your wealth through investing in property or what have you. The key thing here is the bottom line is you've got to build your wealth because the world damn well needs saving right now. And it's our money, it's our pounds, it's our dollars that are going to do it. You know, it's our money and that's going to make the shift. And it's going to take money because we have got the paradigm we're in isn't going to shift until we shift it. And the way to harness power inside of the paradigm at the moment is financial. You know, that's the paradigm we're in. So I think it is really beholden on us to bring in this feminine energy, to be a space for that to occur, to be examples of it for our husbands, our sons and our daughters, and to make a massive difference for those in developing countries where just survival is the challenge for them. You know, there's no choice about where they come from, just that it's about survival. But we can really make that difference.
I agree, and I absolutely love that quote, and I will never tire of hearing it.
I know, it's so important.
So, Joanna, do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I have women business mentors so much as, you know, there's not, because the women in business who inspire me are so busy doing what it is that they do that they're not necessarily available for lots of mentoring, but the conversations I've had have been amazing, you know, mentoring conversations. A lot of the women that inspire me, most of your listeners probably wouldn't know because they're women who are at the top of their field in whatever field that they are in. Most of them I've had the opportunity to meet through the work that I do with the Hunger Project, which is a great charitable organisation that I'm a part of. You know, they're well known within their field but not without. One example is an amazing woman by the name of Belinda Hutchinson. And I had the great privilege of interviewing her for the Hunger Project about 18 months ago now, I think. And I was so struck with her incredible femininity, her incredible, you know, she just, when she walks into the room, the whole room lights up. She's just stunning. She is currently the chair of QBE in Australia, and she's been on the board of Woolworth, loads of big, you know, multinationals here in Australia. She's an extraordinarily gifted woman, very well connected and very well respected in the corporate world here. But what I really, really admire about her is the way that it's her being state inside of all of this, you know. She's really she's really connected to her source and to her feminine energy, and to speak to her about what's important to her, she really embodies feminine leadership principles. And yet she is an incredible mover and shaker inside of corporate Australia, which says to me, you know, the two are not mutually exclusive. You know, you don't have to be a ball breaker to get to the top. You know, you can, which is not to say that, I mean, she's very much in her queen energy, you know, and queens can be severe. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, she's just this incredible embodiment of everything that I hope to express through my business. So, I really, really respect her and learn a lot from her. It makes me sad. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I've had I've learnt business from many women over the years, but most of the way they teach is what they teach are masculine energy business principles. So in light of the conversation we've just been having, I sort of wouldn't want to say, yeah, go check this person or that person. It's all great strategy, but, you know, you'll find lots of great strategy. That's fantastic. I think when you can find someone who is a role model of how you want to be in the world, that's even more profound. And it's because they're so few and far between that I think this conversation that we're having here is really important, because I want, you know, in 25 years' time, you know, you're the next generation of Holly to us, the next generation of Joe. You know, who are your business mentors, and for us to be able to say, oh, well, you know, this woman and this woman and this woman, they're all really well known and really successful in business and really feminine. You know, that I think that would be absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. Because even really well-known, I mean, even Oprah, who, is probably the most well-known, powerful woman in business globally, totally operates from her masculine energy, the majority of the time. Mm-hmm. And especially in running her business, we just don't have the examples. I think there's a lot to learn from a strategic perspective from so many of these women, but from a feminine business perspective, they're rare.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. So, Joanna, before we wrap things up, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I would like to share... anything else I'd like to share? I'd like to say, get out there and make your businesses work so that you can change the world. I think that's really, really important. But if I know I mentioned earlier about we were talking a little bit about the morning pages about getting to know your patterns and things. If people would like to, learn more about that, if they go to my website joannamartin.tv, they can register there. I have a video series which in one of the videos explains that tool and how to use it on a day-by-day basis in more detail. So that might be worthwhile for our listeners to go and do as a next step as well. Other than that, I think it's really, really important that we just have the courage to step into our feminine energy inside of our business, even if we don't know what's going to happen. Because I think that one of the reasons we don't operate from feminine energy more is because we think that femininity is weak. We associate femininity with, well, I did, with the girls I went to high school with who seemed to be interested only in, the color of eyeshadow that they could get away with wearing to school and how to get the attention of the boys at lunchtime. And that was all that they cared about. And it really drove me crazy. And I didn't want to have anything to do with femininity if that was femininity. But we think that, we're never going to achieve anything if we're in our feminine energy. But what I know to be true is that when we're in our feminine energy, magic happens around us. The world realigns around us and things occur. As individuals, it doesn't necessarily feel like achievement, but from the outside looking in, you're actually achieving far more than you ever did operating from your masculine energy. So much more can occur, but you appear to be doing less, which is the beauty of it. So I think it's a really important shift for us to explore, and it's one that has to be taken on faith. The first step has to be taken on faith, because you can't experience it. You don't get the joy of experiencing it until you make the shift necessary, and that's the scary part. But a little bit of courage and off you go.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Joanna. I could talk to you all day long, but I know you've got to get back to your business. So thank you so much for dedicating your time to talking to us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Holly. It's been an absolute pleasure to share with you and with the listeners. Excellent.
Well, and thank you to the listeners for attending this. And remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP19 for the show notes on this episode. I'm going to include everything that was mentioned today, including the books and the links to Joanna's site. So thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.